Hey guys, it's another episode of the Believe in Padres Prospects podcast, the silver episode, or the quadracentennial episode. That would be episode 25. San Diego's #1 sports podcast network, that is the Believe Podcast Network. Wade's out. We had another host lined up who also couldn't make it, so I'm riding solo. Luckily, we're joined by a special guest. He's been doing the ZiPS projections at Fangraphs for the last 8 years. The Padres projections have been released, so we'll be talking to him about that. But follow Fangraphs. Keep an eye out for all the other teams whose projections are being released. They come up sporadically. Got to get them clicks, just like anybody else. So we're going to get to that in a second. But first, this week's episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Let's talk about sleep. Listen to these studies from Harvard and Johns Hopkins. Chronic sleep deprivation has been shown to lead to depression, diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. We need 8 hours of sleep. One of sleep's biggest problems? Temperature. Tough to get good sleep if you're too hot. I want to tell you about the Pod by 8 Sleep. The Pod by 8 Sleep is a high-tech bed designed specifically to help you achieve optimal sleep fitness. It was developed by leading sleep researchers, and after tracking 43 million hours of sleep, it combines dynamic temperature regulation and sleep tracking to enhance your rest and recovery. It learns your sleep habits and adjusts the temperature automatically. That means if you like the bed cool, your partner likes the bed warm, now you can have both at the same time in a crazy, comfortable bed. Sleep longer and deeper so you wake up refreshed and ready to take on the world. Try the Pod for 100 nights. If you don't love it, they will refund your purchase and arrange a free pickup. They already sold out of their first 2 batches. They are going fast. For limited time, get $150 off your purchase when you go to 8sleep.com/pro. That's EIGHT sleep.com/pro. 8sleep.com/pro. So it's Christmas season. It's recording this on Christmas Eve. So this will be the show for the week. Dan Szymborski. Let's get to the interview right now. Here he is. All right, welcome in now, senior writer for Fangraphs, ESPN contributor, ZiPS guru, nerd of the people, Dan Szymborski. Dan, welcome, and thank you so much for making some time tonight.
Hey, Ryan, how you doing tonight? Or today? It's still today where you are, isn't it? It's tonight where I am.
Yeah, it's today.
Yay now.
Well, actually, it's been raining here, which is really uncharacteristic. So it's been a little darker.
Oh, so I have nicer weather than. So it's December. Are you in San Diego?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego.
Okay, so it's December and I'm in Ohio, and my weather is nicer than the person who lives in San Diego.
What was the high today?
60 and sunny.
Ooh. All right,
yeah,
you know what?
I wear shorts.
I think you won today.
It's like the one day out of the next 120 I will win. So
mark that. I'm going to mark that down and remember that today, December 23rd, 2019, Ohio had better weather than San Diego. First question. This is a really important one. Trout's projection is Gryffindor, according to you. Play discipline hitter, low BABIP. Pitchers tend to be Ravenclaw. Hufflepuff, low WAR ratios, low WAA ratios. Where's the Slytherin? I didn't see the Slytherin.
The Slytherin are players that have kind of a very wide error bars in their projections. I think of guys that could be evil or could be great, because there's kind of that. I know this is getting excessively nerdy, but there's kind of that Slytherin. Some of them are like really evil people, but some of them are heroic. Like what's his face? Whose name I can't remember.
Malfoy?
No. The sorry, my mind's blank. The guy. Alan Rickman. Snape. I couldn't remember his name. I froze. Yeah, and I couldn't remember Alan Rickman's name either. I was just about to say Die Hard.
The German guy in Die Hard.
Yeah, German guy.
Okay. So is it weird that I would like Slytherin? Because for me, Gryffindor is just like too much of the goody two shoes group.
Oh yeah. Anytime someone's asked what house I'm in, it's Slytherin, because I tend to be kind of sarcastic and kind of, I don't know, evil. Why do people think I'm evil? I don't know, but.
So who's like your favorite baseball player who would be Slytherin then?
Oh, probably of current players, probably Michael Kopech, because he could be really For the people who were confused by this whole thing, I was bored last Christmas, and I actually used some cluster analysis to actually have ZiPS project what houses that of Hogwarts that players would be inducted to in a
I missed
probability
that. That
base.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's how this happened. It's kind of weird. So there's actually an option in ZiPS that I can check, and it'll also give me the readout for what Hogwarts house they're in.
I'm gonna have to go look that up later.
Yeah, it's one of the things that you kind of can't believe you did until you're saying it out loud, and then you're telling someone on a podcast about this, and you are a little concerned.
No, you live a great life clearly, and you get to do some really fun projects. Leaving the Wizard. Have you seen Star Wars yet?
I have not. I'm saying weird. I'm actually seeing that with my mom on Christmas of all things.
Wow, that's an interesting idea. I didn't even think about theaters being open on Christmas, but that seems like a pretty good time to do it.
Yeah, because my sister's been out of town at her husband's place in Colorado, her husband's parents' place, and so we've been having Christmas with them at like a later date, and hanging out with my mom on Christmas instead. And at some point, we started going to Cine Bistro and having essentially Christmas dinner at the movies. But it's fun, and I don't get too angry with my mom about doing things because we have a movie to distract us. So there's no chances of family trauma, which is also a holiday thing.
Good, and I mean, there's some good basketball too on. So when you get back from the movies, throw some basketball games on. I don't know if you're a basketball guy or not, but
I'm not as much as a baseball guy or a football guy, but I do enjoy it. But I'm just not an expert.
So I just saw Star Wars a couple days ago, and we get to avoid the whole spoiler thing now. But I will just tell you this: I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy. I don't know if you are or not, but the movie just felt.
But the truth is, most of the Star Wars movies aren't very good.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like I go see them, but then I'm always just inevitably disappointed by the time I walk out of it. And this one just kind of holds form. It seemed like it was trying really hard to please a lot of the fans. And I mean, the reviews all say this too. It just kind of came up short.
I mean, they're the nine basic movies. There's Solo and Rogue One, and I guess there's the Star Wars Holiday Special. So
oof, yeah,
you can say that there's like 12 Star Wars movies. And how many of the Star Wars movies are actually good?
I don't think they've made a good one since the 80s.
Yeah, there's Empire Strikes Back,
mm-hmm.
and like the second half of the original, and like the first third of Return of the Jedi until Ewoks start.
Until Ewoks appear.
Yeah.
Rewatching that first Star Wars movie, retroactively named A New Hope. Man, that first half of that movie is slow. I don't know if you've watched it recently.
Yeah, that's why I say the second half. I mean, it was great for the time and effects wise, and it was revolutionary, but not everything revolutionary is actually good.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. I mean, I'm slightly too young to have seen them originally because I'm 41, so I was born in 1978. So I didn't see the originals until I was like a little kid. So I don't quite have the. See, I told you I'd get you off subject very quickly.
Well, I had the Harry Potter question lined up. I really wanted the answer to that, and then I wanted to ask you about Star Wars. And you know what? Nerd culture is all interconnected anyway. So, enjoyed Star Wars. You'll probably enjoy it. It's really fun.
Yeah, I don't expect a masterpiece, so it's fine. I just want to see some things get resolved, even if they get resolved in a sucky way. Mm. And I want to see some explosions and some lightsabers fighting. That's all I ask. Nothing like no cute little Jar Jar things. I mean, the robot that looks like a snowman whose name I always forget, BB-8 or something like that. That's fine. He's not Jar Jar or Ewoks. There's no Ewoks, is there? Are there?
No.
Okay. Because I heard there were a lot of callbacks to previous things. I was a little worried that one of the callbacks to things was the Ewoks.
Well, there are lots of calls. You want me to just give you one thing?
Just no. Don't tell me anything. Just assure me that there are no Ewoks.
I have to confirm that right now.
Okay, you have to confirm. Are there Ewoks?
They show one image of an Ewok.
Okay, but they don't ruin anything. They don't
do anything in the story. No, but they do.
They don't have Ewoks setting like a snare for Kylo Ren to be picked up in, and they start beating him with sticks or something. They don't. No,
there's Ewoks just like looking fondly off into the distance, like happy.
Okay, and you swear that on Fernando Tatis Jr.'s life.
Whoa, that's a big ask, but yes, I'm comfortable.
Okay, I want to ensure, since you're a Padres fan, I want to ensure truthfulness.
You got
That's the best way to do it. I mean, I could wish it like on Eric Hosmer's life, but I don't know if I'm going to be, if that would be enough.
No, I'd be okay if we put him on a barge out to sea and never saw him again. Yeah. So you're right on there.
Yeah, that is a loophole in contracts. If they're away on an ice flow, they go on the restricted list.
The whole contract is void if we can capture him onto an ice flow somewhere.
Well, the trick is you don't have to. If he can't know that, no one can know that the Padres did that. It's just he didn't show up for spring training. I guess he's on the ineligible list.
That would make I'm going to be dreaming about that tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you could give him some food and like a spear to spear penguins to eat or whatever.
His spear tosses would go straight into the ground. He couldn't get enough elevation on the spear tosses.
Oh, not enough launch angle.
Bad launch angle, negative launch angle on the spear tosses. Oh. Let's do some baseball nerdy stuff. I think we hit enough of the sci-fi stuff for one month at least. Talking about ZiPS, you're the ZiPS guy at Fangraphs. We all know that. I check ZiPS semi-frequently. Just kind of always wondering where guys are projected to go because it's the off season. That's all we have right now. I always wondered where ZiPS projections, and you kind of talked about this a little bit in your posts, either on Twitter or on Fangraphs, the site itself. But where do you come up with the plate appearances projections, and how does ZiPS go about calculating that? Is that just kind of normalizing everyone on the same field to get a full season's worth of stats so you can tell what they would get if they played full time, or how do you get those numbers?
Well, I designed ZiPS to be completely agnostic about who gets playing time, and that's essentially by design, because when I think about how I want to use a computer ZiPS, the projection system goes through a ton of data, and I have to ask, what's a more interesting use of a computer? To go through data and tell me how good a player is, or to go through a ton of data and tell me who will in fact play? And I don't really need a computer for the latter. That seems kind of an odd use of a computer. I don't need to tell a computer, who will start for first base for the Padres in 2020. That's going to be Eric Hosmer, no matter what, pretty much. So I don't need a computer to tell me. And say someone like Taylor Trammell. He's unlikely to play in the majors in 2020 unless he blows through the minors. Let's just say there's a 90% chance he doesn't play in the majors in 2020. What's a more interesting projection to spit out? What a computer feels how Trammell would play right now in the majors, or zero? I mean, projection, 0 batting average, 0 on base percentage, 0 slugging. I mean, does that tell you information? And I don't think it does. So it just tells you, he won't play in the majors. And that seems the weird thing to do when you have all that data. Say, how good is Taylor Trammell right now? And right now, he's not that good. He's got a lot of growth ahead of him, hopefully. But I think that's useful. And the way ZiPS calculates the playing time is it uses past playing time, more weighted to recently, uses position, uses the age, and it does have some rudimentary injury information in there, so it knows when a player has missed a year of Tommy John surgery, what years back look like playing time-wise, and adjusts for that. So people shouldn't say, oh, look, ZiPS thinks that there'll be 12,000 plate appearances by batters. Like, no, ZiPS doesn't. These are just the players that ZiPS thinks could theoretically play the majors and how they would do. And in a sense, the playing time problem is meaningless. I mean, I reshuffle it to do depth charts when I project the actual season, because I know that, Ian Kinsler's retired now. Well, I certainly know he's not going to get any at-bats now.
We can hope not.
Yeah, well, he didn't get that bad a projection. Let's put it this way: he didn't project that much worse than Hosmer did.
Well, that's not exactly saying much, Dan.
See, you could have taken it in a kind way, but
no. Especially when I've soured on Kinsler so much. I mean, back before he was on the Padres and when he in his heyday, I loved the guy, especially for fantasy. I would always try to get him. And then this year, once he yelled, are you familiar with his "fuck you, fuck all of you" to the fans after a home run?
Yeah.
Ever since that, I can't be on team Kinsler. Like, it's just he's too easy to hate now. It's too fun.
Yeah, I did think he was a good pickup by the Padres. I felt that they probably used him a little too much early. I thought of him more as a fallback position, and I wanted to see more Urias. But of course, that is behind us now.
Yeah, and we're not going to go through every single guy. You do projections for the whole, 40-man roster and extended, right? There's more than how
Yeah,
many guys would you say?
Oh, I did like 80, I think. It's between 80 a team. I do, the majors. Well, first I start with the 40-man roster. Then I do kind of everyone who's still like AAA or AA and has appeared in AA.
Okay.
Then I do hitting prospects that have at least hit an A ball. And then I do, players that were minor league free agents that haven't re-signed. And then I use, and our non-roster invitees. It's just a whole big ball of, and sometimes I miss guys
Yeah,
here and there, and I have to because this organizational structure isn't that organized. Let's just say.
Yeah, there's lots of versatility. There's lots of guys that are fighting for positions, and I don't know if you even have the rankings right in front of you or where you would how the projections are for these guys. But who would you start at second base, or who do you think has the best or the most likely to have the best season at second base between Profar, Cronenworth, and Ty France?
I like France and Cronenworth. I think that Profar obviously gets first dibs because you look at his 2019. He had 218 batting average on balls in play, I believe, and that level of BABIP is never real.
Mm-hmm.
And people will say, "Oh, Dan, what if he really is a 218 BABIP guy?" I'm like, "No, he's not. He might be a 250 BABIP guy, or he might be a 240 BABIP guy." But I mean, you remember Randy Johnson, right?
Yep.
Did you ever get to see Randy Johnson batting?
I have vague memories of it.
Okay, he stood at the plate. He looked like Lurch from the Addams Family on Quaaludes. Right. He kind of flailed at pitches. He had a 230 something batting average on balls in play, hitting as a pitcher for his career. And no major league player who at least can play at the major league level at some ability level is going to be a worse hitter at putting the ball in play than Randy Johnson is.
I would think that's hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pitchers as a group are usually between 220 and about 235, depending on the year, for BABIP. So no real legitimate hitter who can hit the ball with any kind of force is going to be worse than that as an ability. So yeah, you see a guy with a 250 BABIP. Yeah, that might be a real thing. You see a guy with like a 190 or a 210 or 220. It isn't. And even with his low batting average on balls in play, I can't just keep saying BABIP. I'm going to sound the word's going to lose all meaning.
We love BABIP here. We're big BABIP people.
BABIP, yeah. But even with his BABIP, he still had a 700 OPS. So let's say you add 40 points to that. That's 80 points of OPS, even if it's all singles. So you're already talking like a 340, 450 season.
Do you have a dog or a cat or a pet of any kind?
I have 4 cats.
Any of them named BABIP?
No.
That's something to consider going forward. I think that's a great name for a pet, BABIP.
I'd have to explain batting average and balls in play to anyone in my house, though.
You can do Z-War, BABIP.
Oh yeah,
Pacoda.
My yeah, like the law firm in the
Parks and Rec.
Season of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
I was sad I didn't make it though.
And Eckstein. Well, Eckstein was in there. David Eckstein, but
yeah, Mike Scherr is not going to be on my Christmas card list. I think Zips would have been a good name for a lawyer.
Zips for sure, yeah. The other area where I think it is open for some guy to emerge and kind of take control of the position is catcher. So some form of or some combination of Mejia, Hedges, Torrens. Zips doesn't really project out too well, and Austin Allen's gone now, and I think Luis Campuzano is not ready yet. How do you feel about the catcher position going forward?
I'm actually pretty comfortable with the catcher position. I think it's a good chimera. Mejia, I mean, his bat's developing. He's not as far ahead, obviously, defensively. Hedges, I mean, he doesn't really hit, but there's strong evidence that he's adding real value with his glove. Mm-hmm. His frame numbers have been consistently well above average. And while, I mean, you expect some regression towards the mean with frame numbers, there's a lot of uncertainty around them. And long term, say 20 years from now, we're probably going to not have that same level of frame numbers because I expect robot balls and strikes to be a thing. But right now, he's adding real value. And I don't think there's a problem having a Mejia and Hedges time split. I think it would be an average or a better than above, or not better than above average, a better or above average combination. I think that it would be nice if one of them would take control of the job, but it's not a necessity. And if they both work out, I mean, it's not going to be hard trading a good young catcher. So I think it's the Padres really don't have a lot to fret about. I mean, there's some things that are a concern, some things that could be better, but it's catcher certainly isn't a concern for me right now.
What do you think about this idea? Carry 3 catchers on the 26-man roster. You start Mejia is like the full-time guy who's getting the majority of starts. And then 7th, 8th inning, when he's not due up in the lineup, you bring in Hedges as like the closing catcher.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, defensive replacements have always been a thing. You could also, as time goes on, see which pitcher's most comfortable with which catcher, because you can have. There's nothing that says that one of them has to start 120 games, the other has to start 40 games. I mean, really, you can go with pitcher comfort for a level, because I mean, if you have 2 guys who are legitimate starters, even if not superstars, having a pitcher that's comfortable with each of them, I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I would hope so. So with guys like Gore and Patino, who are both still very young, they just got their feet wet barely at Double A last year. With I think Patino actually had better success than Gore did, even in his little showcase at Double A. ZiPS still projects them pretty optimistically. I think you said if they averaged 200 innings, like they'd be like a 3 WAR or something.
Yeah, ZiPS loves them.
Yeah, that's outstanding.
ZiPS doesn't really. I mean, ZiPS doesn't have a history of loving single A and double A pitchers. It really likes how both of them performed against the competition. I mean, you look at Patino. I mean, he was 19 when he did. I mean, he just turned 20, I think, this month or last month or sometime recently. He very, very recently he's turned to, and he was doing well in the California League. I mean, the California League isn't quite the silly ball league that it used to be. I mean, the ERA was down around 4 as opposed to Triple A leagues with the silly ball went nuts. But he was good in a level at a level where a lot of pitchers that age are still playing in the Sally League.
It's nuts. So do you think they make some kind of impact by the end of this year? And I mean, I think most people are already assuming Gore kind of does, but do you think we see Patino at the end of the season? And do you think he's good?
I think he will be good when they get him up. I do think that they're going to continue to be cautious with Patino. I think that the team would like them to blow through the minors, but isn't going to necessarily just rush them at top speed. I think Gore is probably more likely to be rushed a little more, but I don't think that they're going to be super urgent, and shouldn't necessarily be, because there is still some risk involved in any pitching prospect.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm comfortable moving pitchers quickly, is because arms, you never know how long they're going to last. And if they're dominating the level that they're at, there's kind of no harm in, moving them along quickly. Unlike with hitters, where maybe you want them to get them experience over full season against AAA pitching if they're really young. But pitchers, if they have the right stuff, why not let it fly?
And Gore has a pretty good repertoire. He's not a 2-pitch guy. So I think that he is probably the one they want to be more aggressive with.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. We talked about Hosmer a little bit. We're going to get into Hosmer right now. If you were the Padres, or if you were running the Padres, realistically, what would you do with him at a position that traditionally profiles as a really high impact offensive player? He's definitely not that. And they'll be lucky to get, according to you, 1.1, was that Z-WAR or just F-WAR out of him?
It's Z-WAR, but it's pretty close to Fangraphs WAR. I mean, there are a few differences in the way I do things. I tend to give DHs a little more credit because there's evidence that healthy players playing DH hit a little worse.
Yeah.
I use FIP heavily when I project ERA, but the ERA is already regressed towards FIP, so that's kind of the run allowed is kind of the base, because I've already kind of adjusted for a lot of these things. Okay. So it tends to be between Baseball Reference and Fangraphs wars in methodology, kind of like it'll just land in the middle quite a lot, especially because I use multiple defensive measures, not just UZR, because Fangraphs uses UZR in defense, not DRS. So so for that reason, ZiPS tends to be in the middle. I don't publish them as we get towards the season because we probably don't need another war hanging around to confuse people, but I already have it, and it's built into ZiPS, so that's the one I spit out, and that I don't have to have complete uniformity with Fangraphs predicted ballpark effects for 2020.
Well, any wars, it doesn't matter. Just give me a war with a letter in front of it, and I'm happy. If it's Z or F or R. It's just the Padres are trying to win right now, clearly, and over the next few years is going to be their window. And so he's just kind of a black hole at first base. Like, what would you do with him?
Well, first, were you a Guar fan?
What?
There was a heavy metal band named Guar.
Oh no, I'm not. Oh,
because you said anything before war. So
well, maybe I'll check them out.
Yeah, not really my cup of tea, but a lot of people did like them at the time, a long time ago when I was a kid. Oh God. Okay. Yeah, I'm 41. Jesus Christ. I'm
31.
Hosmer. So. Yeah, you see, it used to be. It's been tough because Dave Cameron and we used to be the young guys of Sabermetrics. We were teenagers when we kind of got into it in the mid 90s with all those people that you see, you know, the original BP crowd, Sean Foreman, Voris McCracken, all them. So we were the young guys, but we're not the young guys anymore. Dave's like a year and a half younger than me, but I mean, I'm 41. I'm like seeing whole generations after me now. So it's hard to get used to that. Let's just say,
for sure.
I kind of got off topic, but Hosmer.
Yeah, there we go.
ZiPS does project 1.1 WAR, which would be an improvement over both his first two seasons. So that's something.
And that's enough for you. Is your starting first base? What would you want to?
It's hard now to find a starting first base. But I'd probably just start France there. But yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't think as long as Hosmer's paid forever. I guess if you mean by running the team, am I the GM of the team or do I own the team?
Whatever it takes to get something done. Like whatever. You're the GM with total control.
At this point, I would eat as much as I could get just to get out of some of that contract. I don't think he's going to be a plus for the team. And I think that having him on the team is worse than paying someone to have him because he's not a guy who has a lot of positional flexibility. Will Myers is also kind of a drag on the roster, but Will Myers also has some use because he can play both corners. He can fake center field. He can fake third base. He probably, given some time, could fake first base just fine long term. I think that Hosmer is more of a problem than Myers is just because it's even with a 26-man roster, it's hard in a day of 8-man bullpens to carry a backup first baseman pinch hitter who doesn't really hit all that well. I would try to move that contract by any means necessary. It's essentially a total loss at this point. And the question the Padres have to ask themselves is like, okay, we've lost this money. This money is already gone. So what makes the Padres better? Is it Hosmer starting at first base, or is it Hosmer not on the team, or is it Hosmer on the bench? And I think that off the team in some way is probably the best result. Now, right now, after a lot of players have already signed, it's a little hard to replace him, but I would definitely be looking in the next year or so to try to find the long-term solution at first base.
That was always my problem with teams that ended up paying a guy like an Albatross contract where he's an older veteran, you're paying him a ton of money, he's clearly not as good as he used to be, so I'm thinking like Albert Pujols. And the team just keeps playing him like, and the thing they say is, well, we're paying him a lot of money. Like, what are we going to do with him? Well, okay, you can pay him a lot of money and that hurts your team. And then he's costing you wins on the field. So he's hurting your team twice. Like,
yeah,
if you get rid of the second part of that. Yeah. Sorry.
It's throwing good money after bad. You already have a bad contract, but now you're also hurting your actual team.
Mm-hmm.
But because people are like, well, they can't just eat the money. Like, no, they're eating that money. The money is gone. It's not coming back. It's not like the odds of him becoming a star, hitting every ball into the ground. He's like slow Willie Mays Hayes.
Do you think in a couple of years he's somehow Preller's found a way to get him off the team?
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And the opt-out was always going to be terrible because essentially if Hosmer worked out, it was a 5-year contract. If it didn't work out, he was an 8-year contract. People were trying to tell me like why that was a good thing for the Padres. I'm like, no, that's not a good thing for the Padres.
So what areas of the team do you think you're most bullish on, and where do you think they're being held back other than first base?
Okay, first base, they're being held back. I think the offense is really good because once you get past Hosmer, then the weakest positions are probably center, catcher, right field, but I don't really have a problem with any of those positions. I think they could use one more starting pitcher because, the guys they have on the team, there's a question. There's some question about all of them to some degree. I mean, Paddock, of course, is an ability. It's, how will he do throwing 180 innings? I guess there's no Lucchese question. He's pretty straightforward. But I mean, Garrett Richards, he's been injured for years essentially. Lamet, I mean, he is coming off a significant injury.
A lot of questions, both those guys.
And Kyle Davies, it's like, how good is Kyle Davies? And so there's significant questions. And I think, did I call him Kyle Davies?
Did you? Yeah,
I think I did.
Zach Davies.
I was like, no,
I didn't hear it.
I hope Kyle Davies isn't starting.
I didn't even hear it.
Yeah, I just realized I wasn't saying Zach Davies. I was saying Kyle Davies. You don't want to be starting Kyle Davies. I guess that question is why they signed someone who hasn't been in baseball for like 8 years. So Zach Davies. There's a question on how good he is. I think he's going to be fine. But I mean, he did have a FIP, a run worse than his ERA or so. So I mean, he's not someone who's like guaranteed to be a 2.5 win player. So I do think that they could use another starter. I would have liked to see Keuchel. I would have liked to see Keuchel last year. I would have liked to see him even more when you don't have a draft pick attached to him.
Keuchel's a lot of money. That's the only reason I didn't want Keuchel last year, especially because he was holding out for a ton of money, and I was like, "What? Who does he think he is? Like, we're not paying."
I wouldn't pay $500 for him.
Yeah,
but I think what he gets is fine. I think the Padres are close enough to contention that another pitcher would have been valuable. But even if not Keuchel, I would like to see another starting pitcher to add depth. It's better to have too much starting pitching than too little.
I think they've needed one top of the rotation guy. I think they have a lot of like 3, 4, 5 guys in a rotation. I think they need one more. Yeah,
Ryu would have been fun too, but Ryu's gone now.
I don't think Padre fans were too upset about that though. $20 million a season. I think we were okay spending that money elsewhere.
It's tricky though, like, because you look at who's left and then it gets way less exciting. Because then you're talking, Homer Bailey, and you're thinking, oh, please
no. Yeah, I'll pass on Bailey.
I know he was fine last year, but I don't have a lot of faith in Homer Bailey. Has Ivan Nova signed anywhere? I can't remember. There were a whole bunch of signings. I don't think he did.
He wouldn't really do anything for me either, though, to be honest.
Okay, well, I mean, we're not talking about, at this point, we're not talking about wonderful players. Yeah. So I don't know what really more they can do at this point.
All right, we will get you out of here on this. You've got a beautiful Ohio night to go enjoy. Don't want to keep you too long. Who would you take if you were starting a team today, Soto, Acuna, or Tatis?
Oh, Tatis. Give me the guy who plays shortstop. I love Soto. I give him bonkers projections. I love Acuna. Tatis is the shortstop. Give me the shortstop.
I've been continuously surprised by everybody. I'm very proud of you for taking Tatis, first of all. But your guy, Jason Collette, who asked the same question to Soto, and then over at Baseball America, Kyle Glazer is also Soto.
Okay, they can have Soto. They can fight over Soto, and I can have Tatis. So then there's no fighting.
I'm very proud. I mean, we saw what Tatis can do last year, and he played only half the games. He was amazing. And Soto, I accuse both those guys of recency bias because of the World Series, and Trent Grisham overruns a ball, and then we're not having this conversation if he doesn't overrun that ball.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I couldn't. If Tatis had 20 more games, he would have gotten my vote for the Rookie of the Year, because that was the award I voted for this year. 20 more games, I would have gotten him over Alonso and Soroka, but I just couldn't do it with 80 because he was a better player on a per game basis than either Alonso or Soroka, but he needed just a little more playing time so I could justify it. So I was very disappointed because I really was hoping to vote him for Rookie of the Year, but I had to vote him third.
I totally understand. That second stint on the IL really, I think, cost him. If he stayed healthy, I think it was his award to win, even though Alonso in New York was going to make things really difficult with those biased East Coast riders.
And the best news is I was kind of worried that if the Padres had their breakthrough season in 2019, they would have done them in the old uniforms, the generic blue. And I kind of want to look back at 20 years at the break out of the Padres and have him properly wearing, mustard.
Dan, yes, you're back.
All Padre uniforms, you should be able to describe them in terms of type of mustard. You say, okay, that's Dijon and spicy brown, and that's a proper Padre uniform. I mean, I grew up with yellow and brown Padres uniforms, and also the Brewers are going back to the the yellow and blue, the proper glove logo. So
those look pretty nice, yeah.
So everything's coming out winning from a clothing standpoint.
When you turn on a Padre game, you should be able to tell immediately that it's you see brown and yellow, that's the Padres when you turn on a baseball game.
And it's cool to have a color scheme that is identifiable with your team. You see the hunter green and gold, that's the A's.
Mm-hmm.
You see brown and yellow, it should be the Padres. You see, the 80s rainbow gear, that's the Astros.
Or the old Hawaii University of Hawaii football team. The
Rainbow Warriors. Yeah,
Rainbow Warriors, the fighting rainbows.
I mean,
Rainbow Warriors.
That would be a great mascot name, the Fighting Rainbows.
I'm gonna have to remember that one. Yeah, I like it too. The more I hear it,
you'd have like this thuggish rainbow as a mascot, just like beating up other mascots.
Rainbow's underrated. You think they're kind of sissy, but then every time you see one, what do? You stop whatever you're doing to look at it. They're amazing.
But you see, because I think of it this way. I mean, rainbows are essentially made of the sun. Because the sun is going to destroy everything we've ever accomplished someday. That is, people will look at the sun as a not bad mascot. Anything sun related is a complete badass mascot.
So you like the Phoenix Suns then?
Yeah, it's a dangerous mascot. People say bears are mean. It's like, you think a bear can defeat the sun? It's going to turn the Earth when it goes into red giant mode. It's going to incinerate everything that ever existed on Earth. Like that is the ultimate bad guy mascot.
The sun is such a badass that it doesn't even have to fight you to win. It could just turn off and still win.
Yeah, that's how badass the sun is. People say, "Oh, the Tampa Bay Rays." The sun isn't dangerous. Like, oh yes, it is.
Absolutely. Dan, really fun talking to you. You answered all those questions correctly. I'm very proud of you. Thank you so much for coming on. We're gonna have to get you back on later in the season. Follow him at D Szymborski. Are you working on anything right now that we need to keep an eye out for? I'm finishing up the ZiPS projections, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
Finishing up ZiPS, finishing up the LG series. I have 5 more teams to go live as I kind of do the last review of 2019. That's what I'm working on right now. There'll be more stuff in the new year once more news starts happening. But this should be a slow part for a few weeks where I can crank out these fun things.
Awesome. Well, enjoy Star Wars and have a good break too.
Yeah, you have a good one as well.
Thank you so much again to Dan. He's a really good follow. He's a funny guy, nerdy guy. If you like nerdy baseball stuff or just nerd culture in general, he's a fun guy. Really enjoyed talking to him. Before we end the show, I am so hot. It's incredible. I won another game last week, even though we didn't have the podcast last week. My gambling account at least noticed that I won last week. That pushes me to 7-0 over my last 7 weeks. I had Baltimore. It was crazy that Baltimore was favored by only 10 points at Cleveland. They got a nice little backdoor cover, but hey, backdoor covers count. Wade is in hiding. He's missed his last 4 picks. His season is in shambles. Luckily for him, it's almost over. And this week, this is free money. The lines are out early right now, so you got plenty of time to jump on this. I'm not overthinking this one. Big favorites have been hitting pretty consistently all year for me. And I'm looking at Kansas City at home, given 8 points against the Chargers. Give me that all day. Kansas City is playing for a first-round bye still, so I think they're very interested in winning this game. Their defense has been playing really well the last few weeks. Mahomes looks more like Mahomes than he did a few weeks ago. Coming back from that injury, he looks great. There's no reason, there's no way this is a one-score game in Kansas City. Give me the Chiefs minus the 8, and we're going to end the regular season on a crazy 8-0 run heading into the postseason. So there's your free money for the week. Thank you for listening to the podcast and our interview with Dan Szymborski. Please follow the show's Twitter account at Friar Farmhands. And if you enjoy the show, subscribe. We're on all your favorite platforms. That too. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeart, all the places you get podcasts. You listen to the podcast, so you know where they are. You can also find them at Believe.com and at Believe Podcasts. That's on Twitter. Please leave your comments, questions, concerns. Rate the show on all the platforms. You've been listening to the Believe in Padres Prospects podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, San Diego's #1 sports podcast network. I'm Ryan Hart. Happy Christmas, Merry Hanukkah, whatever else you're celebrating, maybe Festivus. We'll see you guys after the holidays.
Just move on up toward your destination, though you may find from time to time.
It's a 1-year membership in the Jelly of the Month Club.
Oh, God.
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
That it is, Edward. That it is indeed.
I'm sorry, Clark.
This isn't the biggest bag over the head punch in the face I ever got. God damn it!
Son.
It's good. It's good. It's good. Hey! If any of you are looking for any last-minute gift ideas for me, I have one. I like Frank Shirley, my boss, right here tonight. I want him brought from his happy holiday slumber over there in Melody Lane with all the other rich people, and I want him brought right here with a big ribbon on his head. And I want to look him straight in the eye, and I want to tell him what a cheap, lying, no-good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is. Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?